Hello YouTubes, we have a fun project today. The plan is to convert Bugsy from manual steering to power steering. Sounds easy, right? Let's have a look at the parts we need. We have GM Saginaw style power steering pump. I think this is a Tough Stuff unit, which is very nice. Got this in Marketplace from Brian, who's currently on vacation. Hope you're having a nice time. He also gave me this multi-groove pulley. This is from a big block and I have got a small block. Whoa, size envy. I'm hoping that these bolt patterns are the same. If you know small block Chevys, the centre pilot hole is much smaller, but I can always make a spacer and hopefully bolt pattern's the same and I can fit that, use that for now. If not, I'll find a pulley in Marketplace. And obviously a power steering rack. I got this also in Marketplace from Anthony, very cheap. However, it does have some leakage. And there's also a little copper washer in there, totally stuck, can't get that out. So I've decided, a long time ago, I made a promise to you guys. If anyone joined my Patreon page membership thingy-majig, any money that I made from Patreon would go towards parts for whatever project I currently work on. And I'm currently working on Bugsy. So, thanks to these lovely people, I got this. Brand spanking new power steering rack. Isn't it just delicious? And it's got new bushings and everything, so we are so good to go. Well, we're almost good to go. As you know, this is not a standard installation or conversion. For a start, Bugsy has got a manual Mustang 2 steering rack. This is a Fox body power steering rack. Pretty much the same, except for the mounting holes at the base. This hole and this hole are about a centimetre further apart or closer in. We'll find out when we get in there. Not a big deal because I already made an adapter stud plate thingy for Bugsy, so I could just make a new one, easy enough. Next non-standard thing. Obviously, with this being a Ford rack, these fittings here, the smaller one is the high pressure, bigger one low pressure. Those fittings there are not going to fit a GM pump. High pressure coming out, low pressure coming back in. That one's easy enough, obviously, you just push the hose over. So I did try to get adapters for this, but they worked out to be about $60 each because you just can't get them in Canada. Trust me, I searched, I drove about places and they were like, a what now? So I've ordered a pair of converting hoses from Borgeson, whatever. They should be here today. And they actually fit straight in there and straight in there. The way I see it, the less adapters and connections you've got, the less chance you've got of having leaks. So I thought that was a sensible investment. Again, couldn't have done it without my lovely Patreon members. Next, this bracket should bolt on to the lower side of my water pump. I've got a long pump on this beastie. And I have kind of checked that this does fit in that area. I may have to add a spacer. But the other thing I will have to fabricate is a adjusting bracket, which bolts on here or down there. There's various places you can add an adjusting bracket. If I put it on there, I might have to remove the pulley to get access, although I could get a wrench in there. So what else do I have to do? Oh yeah, the big thing. If you didn't already know, Bugsy has got a Crown Vic front end, so Crown Vic steering hubs all that kind of stuff. The stock tie rod ends, which are pretty much like this, they will not fit on the Crown Vic. The Crown Vic has got weird sort of coney bits at the top of the tie rod ends. A sort of large cone washer. I might have one lying about, give me a sec. I don't, I've used them for something else, but I can show you with this hub nut. If you imagine the top of the tie rod end, there's a big sort of bush that looks kind of like that at the top, but it's much bigger. That's how the Crown Vic attaches to the steering rack to the hub, which is not the same as regular tie rod ends. So what I have to do, I'm going to have to remove this rubber boot and remove the inner tie rod and swap it over with the inner tie rods that are currently on the manual rack. I had to adapt them to make them fit, so hopefully the manual and power rack inner tie rod connections are the same. Otherwise, we are in trouble. But if I can get all that to fit, then all that's left is to get a belt to go between the crank pulley, power steering pulley, some power steering fluid, check the tracking. We're good to go. So let's start with crank pulley. Get the old one off and see if this one will go on. If this doesn't go on, then there's no point continuing today. Now I'm going to be doing this blind for the most part because I'm not taking the front end of the car off. So I'll get this out of the way. This will need to get relocated to the other side because the pump's going to have to sit about here. So I'll take that off. That'll give me access down, way down there. You can't even see down there just now, it's so dark. And then I will loosen off the alternator so that I can get the belt off. Although I'll leave that on for now so I'll get a bit of tension when I'm trying to undo the big bolt in the middle of the crank pulley. Hopefully that will be enough. Right, let me clear some space and then we'll get in there. Right, let's get down there, or at least you can get down there. I won't be able to see, but the camera can see, so at least you'll know what I'm talking about. So 3 outer bolts and 1 centre one. The rusty bit was actually a large washer. So you can see how that's different from the pulley I've got. I'm hoping that the washer fits inside that pulley or the pulley fits over the washer. Either way, might need to get a slightly smaller washer. Anyway, let's try and get this off and see if it works. Right, I just don't have enough access in there. Well, I can get the tool on, but my arm's getting in the way. So we are going under. And I'm taking my impact gun with me. Hopefully, this time I won't destroy my radiator like I did on the Ram. Hopefully. When I did this on the Ram, I was using an electric impact gun, which was about that much longer. Oh, you can't see what I'm talking about. It's about that much longer. So hopefully this won't, once it breaks the bolt loose, it won't shoot back and smash into my radiator like, like it did with the Ram. I don't have a lot of room there, wish me luck. I think we're loose, we are loose. Excellent, and I didn't destroy my radiator yet. Right, I've not even loosened the belt yet, so this will just come off. So there's the bolt I was talking about, the big washer. Let's get this out and compare it to my new one. That's nice success though, I like it. Okay, let's have a look. I really hope these bolt holes line up. Look. Yes, they do, they do. Excellent. Now, hopefully, this bolt will actually, it does. So I can put this back on, tighten it back up, and that's us finished with the crank pulley, the crank harmonic balancer. And then we can just bolt this over the top because it's not going to interfere with that bolt. Excellent. Excellent. Right, let me fire this back on and that on. It almost fitted. If you look at these grooves, it's the second groove in for that. So it's not the big one. The whole thing needs to come out this way, about 1/8 of an inch. So I either have to make a spacer for this side between this and the harmonic balancer, or for now I can just add some washers just to bring it out, just to make sure the whole thing works. Easy enough to swap this over if I can get the correct adapter plate, spacer thing, or I can just make one. Right, let's proceed. I'll get this on. Alright folks, I wasted far too much time messing about with shimming that pulley, so I have come here. Performance Improvement Speed Shops, Upper Ottawa in Hamilton, and I got a brand new small block Chevy 2-groove pulley with the right bolt pattern, the right hole in the middle, $50 plus tax. Shocked and stunned. That's an absolute bargain. So let me race back home and get this thing done. See you in a bit. So while I was out, my hoses arrived from Borgesson. I'm kind of a bit annoyed actually, because I bought a conversion kit to go from the GM to the Ford rack, and I was expecting an actual conversion, but they're basically just normal hoses with adapters. I specifically got this kit because I didn't want to use adapters. I've already got one in for the low side, and this will go in here. I could have just bought these because I've got perfectly good hoses that I got from Brian. Was it Brian? I think it was Brian. So that's a wee bit annoying. I've got them now. Just a wee bit, you know, peeved because it costs a lot of money for this kit. Right, as long as they work, then I'll be happy. It does come with this little brass insert, I presume goes in that hole there to convert the flat end to the tapered end for said fitting in there somewhere. Anyway, enough of that moaning. Let's get this new pulley on, make sure it all fits with the belt, and then we can move on to the rack install. New pulley is fitted and looking very delicious. Lines up very perfectly. So let's see what we can do with this rack. I'm going to whip the wheels off, make life a lot easier when I'm under there. I'll see you in a minute. Wheels are now off. Now, the rack isn't too difficult to get off. You've got the two main bolts here, one there, and obviously you've got your tie rod ends to remove, and your U-joint on the steering column shaft thingamajig as well. Before I touch that though, I'm going to measure from there all the way to the other side, so that when I reattach everything, at least I'll be in the right ballpark. I'll take that measurement and adjust these so that when the steering rack is straight, or right in the middle, at least I've got somewhere to start with, because I know it drives perfectly straight at the moment. So I'll measure and then take all that off, and then we can start messing about with what's inside there. Right, I better clear a space for this, because I'm going to have to dismantle it. But you can see the weird tie rod ends that this has. Normal ones wouldn't fit. Right, I'll see you on a bench. Not that one. Let's just compare racks while we've got them out next to each other. So straight away I can see the distance between that and that is less than the distance between that and that. I knew this was going to happen anyway, so that's as expected. Now, the reason that I'm having to reuse this inner tie rod is I have to use the Crown Vic weird bendy tie rod ends, but from previous experience, they do not screw onto the Mustang rack. Very slightly narrower. That's why I've adapted these to fit. Underneath there it's welded and sleeved and stuff. So far it's as expected. I was hoping that just by some miracle these threads would be the same, but I don't think so. I'll check again, but that looks narrower than that. Okay, I'm going to offer this up and see which way I'm going to mount this, if it's going to be a bit that way or a bit that way. I want this as centred as possible, so give me a minute. Well, the rain went off, so I've moved everything outside. Actually, I moved everything outside 2 days ago. This is how long it's taken me to do this. So I've got my my offset brackets bolted on, so I know the frame now fits to that. That was a pain. It was all to do with this section here. From there to there is about 1 inch longer than the manual rack, so that was not lining up with my current steering shaft. So it's all lining up now, so I will be taking off these boots and hopefully swapping over for the Crown Vic tie rod end inner tie rods. Right, let's see what's underneath these boots. Hopefully where the inner tie rod joins the rack is exactly the same. We can just do a straight swap. Although I'm going to keep the new boots on the power steering rack. Okay, it looks kind of similar. It really depends on the thread on the rack. So let me take these off and hopefully I'll be back with good news. These things are unnecessarily tight. I tried putting a big wrench on the top, but I just couldn't get enough purchase. So what I've actually found the best way to do it is put the flat end of the inner tie rod in the vise and then use a lever. Actually doubled up in this just to break it loose, but it's still not exactly loose. It's ridiculous. No reason for it to be this tight. Maybe it's got thread locker on it or something, but still. Let me fight with this for a while. Still don't know if the new one's going to fit on. Well, chaps and chapesses, it's not going to fit. I can tell just by looking at it. That's a different diameter, much wider on the manual rack than it is on the power steering rack. So there's absolutely no point taking that off. Unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to chop this, chop that, weld the Crown Vic end onto the Mustang inner, sleeve it, weld it over. Well, there goes my warranty. Like I cared about warranties, but that's the only way I'm going to be able to do this. It's too late to make noise tonight, so see you in the morning. What a lovely surprise. Wasn't supposed to rain. Anyway, back to work. Bugsy's wet now, I don't care. So, chop that, stick that on there, same at the other side, boots back on, ready to install. Just like that. One brand new steering rack, completely void of warranty. Anyway, they're welded on. As I say, welded, sleeved, welded. It's not going anywhere. It's only a push-pull thing. There's no lateral force on it. So it's the way I did it before in Bugsy with manual steering and it never fell off, so it'll be fine with this. How much do you hate me right now? I suppose I better explain why I'm doing this, just in case you're kind of new to the channel. In order for the steering to work on Bugsy, I had to shorten the Crown Vic by 6 inches, okay? I couldn't use the Crown Vic steering rack because the pivot points here and here were 6 inches too wide because I'd shortened the cross member. The Mustang 2 and the Fox body, their pivot points, just by chance, are 6 inches narrower, and that's why I had to use either a manual or power rack from a Mustang 2 on Bugsy. And I could not find any of these rod ends, tie rods with this curve. It needs the curve because as the wheel turns, it kind of goes in there. A straight one would just hit the tire. So that is why I had to develop a way of attaching this threaded rod to them, to this. Okay, right. Should have cooled down now by all that. With all that explanation, I can put these boots back on and I'll see you when that is installed on there. Rack is on. As you can tell by my shiny head, it wasn't easy, but it's on. All sorts of spacing and adapting going on under here, but it's on secure now. And it turns, which is the main thing. I did have to make the hole bigger that the steering shaft goes through, and I'll tell you now, having a plasma cutter really helps with that, because there's no way I was getting a grinder in there. Plasma cutter just zip, zip, and it worked. So thanks again to Yes Welder. Right, I remembered to put the lines on first, because it's a lot easier to put the lines on before you install the rack. You don't have a lot of access down there, so they're on. I'm going to have to shorten the low pressure end, but until I know exactly where the pump's going, I won't know how much to shorten it. And this is the high pressure, which will go, who knows where it'll go. Let's get the pump on. Pump is sort of mounted. I've made a little basic bracket there. It's hooked on to the bottom of the water pump like I had said before, and it should rotate enough just to tighten it. I need to get a belt that's pretty much tight when I put it on, so that I can just move it up a little bit to stretch it. I can take this off and drop it down, so I'm not going to have a problem getting the belt on, but hopefully that's enough. And it looks like it's lined up pretty well with that groove there. So next thing I'm going to try and do is get the lines on. They're going to be really hard because, again, really not happy with this Borgson kit. If I can reach in here and grab this pipe. Ow. This has got to get under there and not fill any belts and hook in the back in there. You see the problem I've got here? It's going to have to do this sort of twisty thing to get in, but I'll give it a shot. You don't want to see that, there'll be a lot of swearing. And then once I get that on, it'll be time to size up a belt. Well, this Borgson pressure hose has completely failed me. This section here needs to point that way, and in order to rotate that, the whole thing needs to twist like that, so it's not long enough and it's facing the wrong way. So I'm going to head down to Princess Auto and see if they can sort me out. See you in a minute. There we go then, $40. I hope it fits. See you at the house. Guess what? It doesn't fit. The guy has put on a tapered thread instead of a straight thread on the connection going into the pump. So it doesn't even start going in. It's way bigger. I don't know how he messed up quite so bad. So guess what? We're heading back to Princess Auto. I don't actually think he's going to have the right fitting, so I'll give you an update soon. They couldn't help me. I got a refund at least, so we're back to square one. Don't know what to do next. We're on the road again. I went down to see Larry at the weekend, and Larry took me around to a place. It was closed at the time because it was a holiday weekend, But he took me to a place that he went to get his power steering pumps and they sorted them out. So let us try once more. Heading down to Hamilton, I'll let you know how we get on. Right, I am at Industrial Hose and Hydraulics, Morley Street, Hamilton. Mark set me up with, hopefully, the perfect hose with the perfect fittings. And he kind of gave me a cash discount, but I didn't have any cash, so he didn't even charge me for now. I have just to drop by with the car and pay them. Right, let's get home and fit this thing. Hoses are on. I suppose we'll need to wait and see how much they're going to leak. I mean, they will leak, let's face it. There's no way that this is all going to work perfect first time. Right, I need to go and get a belt. I'll measure it with a bit of electrical cable from the inside of the groove, and then I think you're supposed to add an inch. So I will add an inch, get one that size, and get one another size up. Can always take one back if I don't use it. Okay, I'll be back with belts and power steering fluid. So the standard belt is supposed to be 36 inches. So I got a 35, a 36 and a 37. What's your bets? What do you think it will be? And the winner is 37. 37 inches outside line. It's not mega tight, but I can't really adjust it much with this little bracket. It just doesn't have much play. So, you know what? I'm going to hold on to the other two belts in case I decide to change this adjusting bracket. I don't even know if it needs to come out or in or whatever. Right, let's get the power steering fluid in and then we can go for start. Now, I can't just fill up the reservoir and then start up the car. You need to bleed the system. So I'll be filling it up, turning left and right about 15 Brazilian times. And top it up again. And then keep doing that till there's no air bubbles. Now, I'm not going to use a funnel for this because I won't be able to see when it's full. And I don't want it spilling everywhere because power steering fluid and brake fluid type things are really bad for your paint. You know, I don't want to spoil my good paint. He says sarcastically. I just don't want to mess everywhere. Right. Let's see if I can do some sort of filling without a huge mess. Almost. It's gardening season, hence all the lawnmower noises. Bear with me. Okay, we are full. You can sit and watch that bubble while I turn the steering wheel. That's all the way left. Let's go all the way right. All the way right. Right, I'm going to do that about 50 times and I'll bring you back when we're ready to start it up. All bled and topped up. Let's do this. No leaks so far. So if it was going to leak, I would expect it to leak down there. But as I say, it's early days. The belt seems to be straight enough, it's not flying off. And the other possible leak point would be down there. Right, I'm going to tighten everything up underneath and the wheels because they're not tight. Just make sure everything's tight and then we'll go for a drive. Right, we're back on the ground. Let's make sure it works with weight on the wheels before we go anywhere. Amazing. I'm still checking for leaks. I'll be checking for leaks for a while. Right. Hello. Let's do this. I'm not going to go far for obvious reasons. Biggest test is going to be roundabouts, because roundabouts are a nightmare because you've got to steer right, then left, then right. It's really tough with a manual rack with such a heavy engine. Wow, immediately it's super light. Well, not super light, but power steering light, you know. It's weird not having to flex my muscles. Look at this, one-handed. Oh, it's a much short ratio, quick ratio box. Just making sure it's going in a straight line. Obviously, I'm going to have some tracking to do, and the steering wheel's way squint. I was kind of expecting that. Oh, I need to get used to this. I hardly have to turn the wheel at all now. So far I'm not feeling the need for the reducer. It's not like darting left and right. I'm checking behind for big puddles of power steering fluid. Oh, what a joy! What a joy! I love it. If you've not got power steering in your old hot rod, I would highly recommend it if you've got stiff steering, because mine was unbearable. You can tell by the smile. So we'll get home, check for leaks. If there's no leaks, job done. No leaks to report at this time, Commander. But time will tell. Time will tell. Well, that was a bit of a nightmare. Worth it though, well worth the grief that I went through. Now, I could not have done this without the help of all my patrons, Patreons, I don't know what to call you, but thank you for supplying me with that power steering rack. And I really couldn't have done this without Larry's advice and told me where to go to get the high pressure line. I was about to throw in the towel, to be honest. And thanks obviously to all my normal subscribers, because watching those poxy adverts really helps buy stuff like that and hoses that were completely useless. Oh well, it's not Bergson's fault, it's my setup was custom and that was a kind of universal thing, but whatever. Lesson learned. Right, I have got Tuesday night cruising to do down at Ancaster Canadian Tire. And I might even take my wife and let her drive, because she's never driven Bugsy because the power steering didn't exist, because the manual steering was just too tough. Anyway, I'm waffling, I'm excited. It's going to be so much nicer to drive Bugsy now. Take care of everyone. Take care of everyone, but take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.